Hi, I'm Hope, and today we're going to be talking about how to write a debate speech. So we're going to do a basic overview of what you want to put in a speech, how to write the introduction, how to write each contention, and then general tips for writing your debate speech. So first, what do you want in your actual speech? So you're going to want 3 contentions supporting the pro or con, depending on what side you are. After you have each of these reasons, you're going to want to put in warrants or reasons that you're right. For example, if you say that doing something is going to lead to war, you want to say why. Why will that lead to war? Why should the judge, your opponents, and your team believe that it will lead to war? So let's talk about writing the introduction to your speech. You're going to introduce yourself and your partner. You're going to want to say if you're on the pro or con side of the debate. You're going to repeat the debate resolution, and you want to give a roadmap of your contentions. So when I say roadmap of your contentions, you want to give an overview of what 3 contentions you're going to have. You might say, for instance, in the speech, we're supporting the pro or con because we believe blank causes impact 1, blank causes impact 2, blank causes impact 3. So you're going through exactly what 3 arguments you're going to make in the round. Then you're going to move on to your contentions. So first you want to state what your contention is. So even if you already said it in your introduction, you want to state it clearly in the first line of every contention you talk about. Then you want to state why your contention is true. This is your evidence, right? This is your warrants. This is what you've looked up and you've studied in order to say, I know for sure that my contention is right. So you want to share that information, of course, with your opponents and with the judge. Make sure this is good evidence that you would cite later in the round, and that will help you win if your opponents try to debate you on this specific evidence. Make sure you know it really well so that you can argue it and analyze it on your own as well. You also want to state the impact to your evidence. So it's great to say that, X causes Y, but, will that lead to war? Will that lead to environmental problems? Why should the judge be concerned or listen to what you're saying? Why is it important that you have showed that X causes Y? So again, that impact can be something really disastrous, like a war, or it can be something that maybe isn't have as big magnitude, but maybe is really probable that it's going to happen, or it's going to happen really soon, and that's why you should care. So that's more impact analysis, but you should be thinking about how you want to frame your debate in your speech. You should be thinking about those impacts as well. You also want to end your speech after making all your contentions by saying that is why we urge a pro-con ballot. Being pro or con depending on what speech you're making. So, at the very end of the round, you want to remind the judge what side you're on. Also, in your conclusion, you can restate your main contentions just to give a nice summary of what you've said. So now let's talk about some tips for actually writing the speech beyond the structure. So writing a speech can be daunting because you're staring at a piece of paper or a computer screen, and you're about to look up evidence, and you just think, oh my gosh, I have this whole speech to write. But once you practice it a couple times, you can kind of follow a pattern of how to start your speech, and then once you kind of have a framework for your speech, it kind of takes off on its own, and I promise it's not as daunting as it may seem. So the first thing you want to do is just gather evidence. Do not worry about writing anything yet. Don't worry about trying to make a speech before you even have your evidence. Just go online, go to whatever source you like to get for your speeches, Google Scholar or different news sources like New York Times, and just search keywords in your topic. So if it's a topic on refugees, search refugees, government, or refugee crisis, and see what comes up, see what kind of news is coming up, see what kind of evidence is coming up, and go from there. If you find evidence that seems like it has very good arguments for the pro or con, since you and your opponent are rewriting both speeches, just keep the evidence. Just put the link into an email or save the link on a document, just so you can come back to it later. Don't worry right now about taking evidence out of it. You can also, alternatively, if you like taking evidence out right away, start a Word document or on a piece of paper, write down pieces of evidence that you have found to remind yourself later. However, make sure that, again, you have the source so that you can reference that source during a round. Then, after you have all your evidence, you want to start making an outline. So, this means grouping your evidence together into categories. If you chose initially not to write down your evidence, now is the time to go back to those articles that you liked and find the evidence again within them, this time writing it down. When I say you want to group your evidence into categories, this is your contention. So if you have a contention, about war or about, X causing Y, which leads to war, then any evidence that supports that you want to put into that contention. And right now, again, we're not writing a speech. We're literally just taking our evidence and pooling it together into different categories so that we have our 2 or 3 contentions. Now you actually kind of have an outline for your speech, and we haven't even done any speech writing yet. So now is the time to actually start putting your evidence into sentences. So you have 5 bullet points already. Just make each bullet point 1 or 2 sentences, including how it connects to your contention, and the impact that evidence has, or what is the warrant for that impact, in your own words. Make sure you're not just copying and pasting from the article. That's plagiarism, but make sure you're putting the evidence into your own words or using a quote. And of course, make sure that you are sourcing everything, saying where your evidence came from. This again is just because you don't want to plagiarize, and also because having sources helps your credibility and around. Now you have, again, half a speech. You have all your contentions already done. You can go back online or go back to books, wherever you're getting your sources from, and find additional information just to fill in any holes, or maybe an area maybe needs more evidence. You go back and get some more. Now you have all your contentions written out. Now all you need to do is go to the beginning of your speech, write your introduction, and go to the end of your speech and write your conclusion. As we already talked about, your introduction is mostly just stating who you are, what side you're on, and your contentions. And since you already have your contentions written, your introduction has basically written itself. Same for the conclusion, since that's mostly a summary of what you've already said. And your speech is done. So I think the biggest part to writing your speech is just diving in and getting that initial evidence, and then just turning that evidence into sentences. But I think if you follow this kind of pattern, this kind of formula, writing your speech is really not daunting at all. You want to make sure also to edit at the end of your speech, of course. Making sure that your grammar is okay, and that you like how the sentences are arranged, etc., etc. So just make sure you give some time to edit as well, or peer edit, have your partner look it over for you. Finally, if you just can't find the evidence you need, or you're not sure how to write the evidence up into a speech, you can't really find your angle, you can't really figure out an impact, that's when it's time to go to your team. Don't be afraid to ask your coach or your teammates what kind of evidence they would suggest, or how would they word this. Your team is your biggest community, and they're your biggest source of help. So make sure to go to them for any speech stuff you need. So I hope this was helpful, and good luck with your debates, and good luck writing all your speeches.